long time.
Yeah, I think we keep doing this. We need to get on a better schedule.
Yeah, we took a bit of a hiatus, but life's been pretty hectic, ironically.
It seems funny, we've been on the coronavirus kind of lockdown sort of schedule for, at this point, 8 weeks now. But I just can't seem to find the time to work out or podcast.
I know. It's really interesting how
eat healthy.
Time has just completely been a vacuum of space. And you're like, wait, how has it been 8 weeks of my life?
Yeah.
And what have I done with myself? We have accomplished a lot in regards to our business, but with regards to our personal selves, I think we've taken the back seat to business and pleasure over health. Although I did watch a movie recently called Brittany Runs a Marathon, and that inspired me to get off my ass and start running. So I guess there's that. But it's the last week of COVID.
It's funny because you really connected with that movie.
I did. I love that movie so much. For those of you listening who haven't seen that movie, it's a must see. I've been passing over it for over a year because it's one of those movies you're like, what the fuck? I'm not going to watch this movie about some fat chick running a marathon. And then we just got kind of desperate because we're low on the totem pole as far as new viewerships, and which blows my mind. You'd think that
we're near the bottom of Netflix.
Yeah, but you'd think that all those movie companies would have been blasting new movies. But anyways, I watched it. I loved it. I related to it, and I was like, that's it. I'm getting off my ass. I'm going to be active. I'm going to put some activity into this body.
Well, you said that you've been wanting to run for a while.
Yeah. I don't know why I absolutely hate running, but something in my spirit was like, go run. You must run. So I was like, I don't know if that's God telling me to run away from something else or if I should just literally go run. So
I think it's good. I mean,
took it literally.
You're getting back to being active and you're kind of locking in your schedule.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's a schedule. I like to run later in the day once Remy's sleeping. The sun's gone down a little bit, so it's not as hot. I found a really good app that just kind of coaches me through it. So, yeah, I'm getting there. It's those baby steps. And, it's small things. I was talking to Carrie today, and she's a health and wellness and advisor, and she's graduating soon with her nutrition degree. And she gave me some really good advice. She was like, Holly, you should never diet. You should never restrict yourself from something. You have to look at things in small incremental steps to make major lifestyle changes. And she was like, you have to just cut one small thing out. One small thing. Not totally, but you still give it to yourself on one day or occasionally. But you can't look at it and say, I'm never eating bread again or I'm never eating sugar again, because what happens is you do and you lose weight and then you yo-yo back to a normalcy and your body just absorbs it. And you, once you're depriving yourself of something, then you just crave it later. So she's like, just small baby steps. And I was like, okay, yeah, right now my baby step is getting off the couch and running.
Yeah, she does a good job of those elimination diets where she'll go through 30 days of
or even
not
just a
eating,
week.
a week or whatever it is, just small goals.
Yeah.
And I think
small goals.
She does a good job
totally
doing that.
She's in great shape, and yeah, she has a company. It's called Carried Away Wellness. So go check her out. Little plug there, but yeah, she's going to be a really good advisor one day, I'm sure, to many people, just because that advice was really clever, and I haven't heard that from any health coach or any person.
Really?
No, I've never heard that of don't diet, just cut one little small thing out and then try another one and then try another one and then try another one and then let yourself have it one day a week. Maybe it's on Saturdays. Maybe on Wednesday you start craving it. Have it on Wednesday, but then now you can't have it on Saturday. And just the way you think about food, negotiating with yourself versus deprivation.
Well, I think you've heard that several times. Maybe you're just open to listening to it now.
I've never heard it.
Okay.
Maybe you've said it. Is that what you're trying to imply? I never heard it. That's a good one. Anyways, enough about nothing. So, yeah, the activity sector of our lifestyle has gone way down since this has happened, as I'm sure a lot of people's has. because, you know, unfortunately for some people, it's gone down just because of the mere fact that the gyms have closed and it's become a little bit more of a hassle to try and work out. But we have the luxury of having a gym in our back garage. So we really have literally zero excuses for why we haven't been, you know, trying to hustle. But we've been, I think, mentally hustling in other ways. And sometimes that just takes up all your mental capacity to do anything else or think about anything else.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, it's just focusing on the business and getting it up and running. And then, you know, also managing my job, which it's not really that hard, but, you know, it does take some brain power and focus and towards it. So
yeah,
balancing that, but, you know, you've been waking up at 5:30 in the morning, cold calling the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then, you
know,
pretty
much all my clients right now are on the East Coast. So as soon as I wake up at like 5:30 or 6, I'm on email. And then once in a while I can handle an email from bed, which I obviously would favor. And then I can try and fall back asleep. But I've had no luck lately where, you know, those emails are not easily answered. And I have to come in the office, and Don built me a nice little setup back here. So I have this beautiful desk. I have a beautiful chair now. Whereas before I was like sitting at a hunching over on the bar, which kind of killed my back. So now that I have a good setup, you know, I get kind of eager to come out here and just crank. And I was talking to Aunt Patty about it tonight, and it's like an addiction. Like when you own your own business, it becomes like an addiction because you're like, well, there's like this other email I could send, or there's this other pitch I could put together. There's this 5 more businesses I could have called. There's 10 more people on the East Coast that I could have called before noon. Like I'm constantly shuffling in my brain what I need to do. And she said to me, she's like, you know, I just got ranked number 1 for volume for the month of March in the whole company. And I still am like, oh, I could have sold one more thing today. Or I should have sold that, or I didn't sell this much. And she's like, and then I just have to be like, shut the fuck up. It was just so funny the way she said, I'm like, wait, you're telling yourself to shut the fuck up, or did you tell someone else? She's like, no, myself. I'm like, she's like, I told myself, shut the fuck up. You just got number 1. But yeah, it's an addiction.
So I'm curious, you know, you just on Wednesday got the letter from your company to go back to work.
Yeah.
And, you know, the past couple of podcasts that we've done is, you know, the stress of losing your job and being laid off and, you know, kind of what that feels like.
Yeah.
Dealing with that stress and the burden of the unknown.
Yeah.
And then you were just settling in, you know, you were
hustling,
you were making it happen.
Yeah.
And so when the notice to get back to work, like, how did that feel? And how are you processing that?
I wasn't prepared. I think what frustrates me is that, you know, they can drag you out for 8 weeks, not talk to you, not tell you anything. I followed up literally last week and got nothing. And then 2 days later, I'm being told I have to come back to work and start full time again on Monday. And I'm like, you kind of told me that last week. Like, what's changed in 7 days that you didn't know about last week? And, you know, a lot probably. They probably got a PPP loan. They probably have a lot of things going on that are urgent, and they're starting to become even more urgent, and they need attention, and they need the attention of a designer. But with that said, it made me feel really stressed because obviously I've quite enjoyed this time and really honing in on focusing on something that's making me money, that's not making someone else money. My whole career I spent making people millions of dollars, and I've seen like a small percentage of that. And with this business, everything I make. I put it right in our savings, and it's our money, and I don't have to pay, you know, this company and that company a percentage. It's our money. And I think that's what's really motivating for someone like me. I have a super strong work ethic, so I can wake up at 6 a.m. to hustle for my own business, and I don't sleep in and drag my feet on something. Like, I try to get all my work done by noon or 1. There's some days I'm out here until 5 or 6 o'clock, and, you know, I got in here at 6. So, you know, it all kind of evens out. Some days I work on weekends. Some days I don't. But when you're working for somebody, not only am I spending time in the car commuting, but I'm working for somebody else's dollar. And that's just a hard pill to digest, to have to go back to, and so abruptly as well. So yeah, it's been kind of interesting, and obviously super grateful. And I don't want this to be confused with being, arrogant or ungrateful in any way. Yeah, like I definitely am grateful for the opportunity to go back. I'm definitely grateful that I have a job. I actually have a couple options. So that's pretty awesome. And one of them being staying home and continuing to hustle. But I think at this time, it probably is best for me to go back and get my bearings straight as to like what the state of the company is. And I have a lot of personal items there. And, it just makes sense for me to go back right now and get off of unemployment and get my feet back together and get my feet on the ground and get my life kind of back to where it was, and get settled again. Because, not having financial stability, it can be quite stressful. They call it financial freedom for a reason. Like if you don't have that, you feel stuck and you feel trapped. And I've always felt that way. I've always felt like completely trapped without money. So you were like asking me earlier, like, why do you like, the Sway Collective job so much? That's our business. And I was like, because I'm addicted to it, because I'm addicted to the opportunities. I'm addicted to the idea that there's so much more out there that's untapped, that we haven't even gotten to, like, we haven't scratched the surface of opportunity with that business yet. And I'm addicted to that idea that there's like just so much more beyond the surface, and it just takes some time and it takes some hustle. But I think
So have you thought about not going back and just staying
of course,
on the hustle?
That was the first thought. And, my mom and I had some pretty serious heart-to-hearts, and she came out here when I was working. And because I haven't stopped working since I found out I'm going back to work, I'm still, obviously I'm still maintaining Sway Collective. And there's good days and bad days, we had a pretty slow week. We had a busier first half of the week and a slow last half of the week. And, there's weeks like this week where I'm like, oh, well, it's not steady. It's not steady enough for me to feel comfortable that I can make my payments on my house and my payments on my car and, all of that without feeling like completely stressed that I'm not going to make that next month, And so you do have to have a bit of a cushion set up, and that's just what my goal is for this year. Now I have a goal. Like sometimes you're just like, I don't even know where to start. And that's how I felt with Gazer and Blair, and with Sway Collective. I felt very much like, okay, that's a great idea. I know I could do it. I know I could slay. I know I could kill it. I don't know where to start. And I don't have the balls to start. And this was just like a kick in the balls. Like, okay, go. So I know now what I need to do to make it successful, but I also know that I need some sort of safety net built. So if I have a rough month, I can pull from that safety net. So this next year for me, if I work for a year, it's going to be all about tucking money away to make a safety net for our business. So, we have our own financial freedom within our business as well. So if you have a bad month, or you have a kick-ass month, and then you have 4 bad months, or vice versa, like you have that safety net to live off of.
Yeah. So talk to me about the difference between, working from home, owning your own business, and, going to work, working the 9 to 5 for somebody else. What is, I've noticed a significant change in you, mm-hmm. in your mood, your energy.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy. I'm really happy. Yeah. I think for me, like I said, when I'm hustling for somebody else, well, there's a couple things. The first is when you're working for somebody else, it's really hard to be motivated because you're like, well, what good is it? I'm only getting X amount. Even if I stay here till midnight, I'm only getting X amount. So I can leave when I should leave, and I'm still getting X amount. Or I usually work really, really late, come home and answer emails, and, just work over what I should. But I also have like really demanding people that I work with. So they have high expectations of me. They're highly demanding. They're highly stressful human beings. And that just always kind of created a very like hostile work environment for me. And, you know, the opportunity is great, the money's great, but sometimes when you have good money and good opportunity, you get a lot of stress. So that's been interesting. And I think the other factor for me was always driven by this fear. Like I lost my job fresh out of college when I was 21 in the publishing company that I was working at, just because the publishing industry was just absolutely tanking at the time. And so I was like a neophyte, and it was the easiest chunk of change it was the easiest chunk of change to toss. So when I had that feeling, and I did mention this because that's always drove me to want to be a harder worker and be more successful, is because I never wanted to feel that feeling again.
Right.
And a lot of people say that, like really poor people who grew up poor, they're like, I never want to feel that again. And that's how I felt, because I was poor in my life at that moment. My parents weren't supporting me. I had $800 a month in student loan debt. I had, rent to pay. I was responsible for items, my car payment, whatever. So I never ever want to go back to that feeling of, holy crap, how am I going to afford groceries, especially with 2 children? And I think the burden of having other people's lives in my hands definitely drove me to being like almost obsessed with not losing my job, and going too far to building so much loyalty and putting way too much into it.
So do you think now, when you go back, do you think that you're going to go back with the sense that you have outs?
Yeah.
And you're not going to be so worried, and you're not going to be so stressed about it?
I am. I think I've realized that this isn't the only job in the world. There's a lot of other things out there, even if it's not making what I thought I could make. There's outs. There's other ways to live and succeed. And I won't feel so trapped. I hope that this sticks with me. My fear for myself is that I'll have this for a month and then I'll fall back into my same bad habits of being completely engaged in my job and disengaged in my life. And, the only people who suffer really are you and the kids. And, my health has suffered and my sanity has suffered. I don't feel good half the time. I'm always sick, because I'm always stressed out, and it just burned me out. So I hope that I can carry this new sense of, it's not leisure, but it's a sense of comfort in the fact that I can figure it out.
So
we can figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the, the stresses? You talked about a lot of the positives of, having the business and being able to fall back on that. What are some of the stresses that you experienced?
Oh my God. In the last 8 weeks?
Yeah.
They're immeasurable. I mean, I think some of the early stresses, which, hindsight's 20/20, you always kind of wish you could go back and poke yourself and say, chill, you'll be fine. So I think the first 4 weeks of COVID, I stressed about if we're going to lose our house, if I'm going to lose my income forever, because the industry just was looking so bleak at that time. And I think for me, I realized like pretty early on that like, hey, I have to find another plan, another strategy, just because there might not be an industry for me to go back to. And that's really how I was thinking. So that was very stressful. And then once I started hustling, the stress shifted to not knowing anything about what I was doing. Like I literally was like learning as I went, cold calling people and having people like cuss me out. Working with Kaiser and Blair and having them kind of cuss us out because we're still learning, and just kind of all together having people not be very patient with us as we're learning. And rightfully so. They're like, trying to survive and find supplies for themselves. So I totally get it and respect that. But that became very stressful. The other thing that was stressful to me was that I don't like letting clients down. I don't like letting anyone down. I'm like an overachiever in the sense of I want everyone to like me. I've always wanted everyone to like me my whole life, and especially a client. So the new stresses that have kind of evolved. So it started with the stress of losing my job. It became the stress of trying to learn something really quickly that I knew nothing about. And now the stress is lessened because I'm starting to kind of get my groove, but it's also still stressful when I get an email like, oh, you fucked up this order, or you did this wrong, or you did that wrong. Or, we learned a lot of really quick mistakes. Like we had a potential like huge client, massive. Like it would have literally made half of my year's salary in one purchase. But so it was really important to me to nurture that client. And, halfway through, he ended up pulling out of the deal, and we were all so super bummed about it. And then like later that night, I found out that the product we were selling him wasn't even exactly the right product, and we would have probably had it returned anyways. So yeah, just a lot of like really quick life lessons. And I have to say, God's been watching over us very heavily, and he's had a heavy hand in everything we've done, every move we've made. And he continues to. So yeah, I just have to kind of like trust that there's a plan. I'm not sure what it is, just like I wasn't sure what it was at the beginning of COVID. I have to trust that I don't know what it is at the end of COVID, but that it's good. It'll be good. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
It's pretty amazing that you were able to get up basically, from the grassroots and start selling stuff that you have really no experience in and do a good job. I mean, you should really get some testimonials from some of the clients that we've served so that we can throw it up on the website and kind of, help build a reputation that you've started, because
most of the testimonials have been verbal, but yeah, for sure. I would love to do that. I have felt like, holy crap, I can't believe what we've accomplished, and you've helped me a lot too. And, I think we've done a lot in a small amount of time, and Aunt Patty was calling tonight to actually kind of say that as well. Like, hey, you should be super proud, and you should be thankful that you have multiple opportunities shoveled your way. But you should also go into these opportunities with confidence, knowing that you don't necessarily need them, and you could still do this. You could still do this by yourself. You can still hustle. And yeah, I
know it's scary, but
yeah,
I've told you this multiple times. Like, if you don't want to go back, don't go back.
Yeah.
If you want to make it work, we can make it work.
I have to go back. I have to go back for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have a ton of stuff, a ton of proprietary information on that computer, a ton of proprietary information in that office, a ton of
yours
stuff.
Your proprietary
information. Yeah, exactly. So I need to go back for that reason alone. And then I also need to go back just to kind of prove to myself that I don't want to be there. Because it's a totally different...
Some closure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a totally different boss. It's a totally different environment. Might be totally different clients. I might even be working on totally different brands.
Who knows, or let me say it this way. It would be kind of unfulfilling for you to end your career doing that.
Absolutely.
And how successful you've been and your experience in that, and then how wanted you are in that community, just to be like, oh, and now I'm just going to do this instead.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of how I feel about it. I owe it to myself to go have some finality with Manhattan Beachwear, and have some closure, and have some peace of mind that I'm doing the right thing. And I think I'll know pretty quickly if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. And the good thing is I have options. Whereas before I didn't. And so it was kind of like
put up and shut up.
I didn't know.
Realize.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. And I always had, I've had family friends. Like we have, our family friend Greg, he's always been kind of an inspiration in my life, as far as like, when shit hit the fan, he went out and started a business, and he is very successful because of that. And if shit didn't hit the fan, he would have never done that. He was an engineer before.
Well, I think it's the same way for you. I don't think that.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you still would have worked as hard as you are working, because that's kind of who you are. But, you kind of had this back against the wall mentality the whole time while you're hitting it. And you cold called 50 to 100 people a day, for 8 weeks straight, and emails. And you were able to close a lot of deals and, create some really good relationships with, some really big businesses. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's basically exactly what Patty and I were talking about today. And she's been super inspirational and super helpful. And, you know, we're blessed.
We should get her on the podcast.
We should. We're super blessed to have people like that in our lives. And I said that to them tonight. I said, you know what? I'm just so thankful that I married Don for many reasons. You're a gem in my life. But I am thankful for the fact of gaining some amazing family members. Like, some of my favorite people in the world are related to you, who I've acquired through marriage, that, you know, most people aren't that lucky. And so I'm super stoked and super lucky that I have some people like that in my life through you, who've just been a tremendous mentor and leader and guide, you know, to me and to you.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. And I was sharing that with them tonight, and they were, you know, it was nice for you. And I think that's kind of one thing that's happened through COVID, I have to say, is that like people are kind of like a little bit more apt to share feelings and share thoughts with each other, just because you're like, hey, you never know, like, what could happen. You could, you know, kick the bucket and then tomorrow. And I think that's kind of brought people's like realities down a little bit, and realize like, hey, if you have a feeling about somebody, you should share it, because they need to hear it probably. Or,
you know, what's really funny is that, and my friends and I were joking about this, but this COVID experience is really just everybody getting a small insight into deployment.
Yeah, that's what you're
saying. Mean, obviously it's much more luxurious. Nobody's shooting at you, and you know, it's not totally relatable in all senses, but you know, you're locked down to very limited activities.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have all the options that you're used to.
Restrictions.
You know, you have more time in the day than you know what to do with. There's so much that you want to do, but you can't necessarily do.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can go to work, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can, you know.
Why couldn't you go to work?
Well, I mean, like, just when you're on deployment and it's not super busy, then you're just sitting there. You're like trying to work, but
it's,
you know,
totally like COVID. Then
you can't make the bad guys show up and, you know, be there all the time.
So interesting. Okay.
And so, yeah, a lot of times on deployment, when you're just kind of waiting for things to do, there's still 24 hours in the day, and you can't do a damn thing. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to spend your money. You're
locked in a desert. Yeah.
And so, but on that same note, you know, you're with people that you're closest with, and like you were saying, you know, you could kick the bucket at any minute. So you're, now, don't get me wrong, we're not around sharing all our feelings, but we do talk about some very in-depth, deep shit with each other. And
because you have time.
And there's a bond. Well, there's a bond that you create with those people that are unlike any others.
Sure.
And I think families are getting to experience that.
Yeah.
And I think couples are getting to experience that, for better or worse. You know, there's a lot of divorces and, you know, shit like that. But
yeah, definitely.
At the same time, what has really kind of made me happy in getting to see Americans get out and walk.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's how I remember growing up when I lived with my grandparents. We went for a walk every day.
Yeah.
And
like everybody's doing it now.
Yeah. And when you go outside, everybody's walking. Families are together. Parents are taking their kids riding bikes. And we're not playing at the park or anything like that, but they're out together off their phones, just doing some shit. Off their technology, you know? And it's pretty cool. It's like living in the 1970s with Wi-Fi.
Completely agree. In fact, I thought that today. I was on my run today, and I ran past this herd of kids that were on their bikes, and they were like running around on their bikes, literally like old school when we were kids, like, hey, let's go pretend like we're racing motocross or whatever, like just like racing and having fun. And I looked at them and I was like, God, that's the first time in years since I've lived here that I've seen that. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot of that come back, where it's just like good old fashioned fun is now really, really fun because it's been restricted. It's like a restriction diet. Like, you can't eat carrots. And then when you eat a carrot, you're like, damn, this tastes like candy.
Well, yeah, like a lot of, you know, a lot of the activities that the kids are doing are they're going over to each other's houses and playing video games. And now parents are like, I don't want a handful of fucking kids in my house.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know where you've been and family and all that stuff, or, you know, the whole social distancing and stuff. So they're like, you can come over and play, but you're playing outside.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you guys go jump on the trampoline, play in the pool, go ride your bikes down the street, whatever it is.
Go play in the bleach bath. That's what I call it. I like to
all the chlorine.
Yeah.
But so having the kids play outside in that, you know, quote unquote social distancing, 6 feet apart, outside riding their bikes, you're like, yeah, we did that all the time. That's how we grew up playing.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of this. And, you know, it has been quite divisive. I will say that. I think there's people who believe one thing, and then there's people who are like adamantly believing another thing about this whole crisis. And we're not going to get into that because, to be honest, we hear about it all day and it just gets really tiring. But I think the thing that's really interesting in general, though, it could be said that there's going to be some really great things that come out of this. And whether it's like families kind of reuniting and realizing what's important in life, or, you know, in my scenario, it's like stopping and, you know, smelling the roses a little bit and realizing that, you know, don't have to feel so trapped and so stuck in a rut. And there's so many other things you can explore and do. And my sister's a great inspiration for that as well. Like, she just, instead of just bending over and saying, you're right, I'll take half my pay, and okay, I'll, you know, default on my mortgage or whatever it might be, because she wasn't making what she was making. She went out and got a second job. She's hustling her ass off, and she's going to come out of this probably debt free and making way more money than she was making to begin with. So yeah, it's just one of those things where I think good things will happen. And a lot of times in these really, really bad times, great things come out of them. And
if you hustle, I mean,
yeah,
you know, I think a lot of people try their hardest to focus on the negative shit that's happening, the woe is me, you know, things like that. And if you don't ever take the time to focus on the positive, or how to spin it into a positive, or just get over it and keep moving, then you're just going to get bogged down, and it's going to be terrible. And the whole time is going to be terrible for you. But if you say, okay, this sucks, it's bad for everybody, or even if it's just bad for you, right? Okay, check, got it. And you move on, you find a way out, you look for the next steps, then you're going to be okay.
Well, I did struggle with that a little bit. I did struggle with, I don't know what the word is. It wasn't jealousy necessarily, but it was like a feeling of isolation, because I would like look around, and in the beginning, there was a lot of people who worked for several weeks before they got furloughed, and I got furloughed like right away. And I remember kind of being jealous a little bit, like, what the hell, man? Like, I love to work. I'm such a hard worker. Somebody please give me work to do. The fact that I'm being told I'm not supposed to work was just like, it was like telling me, like, I can't walk down the street. You've lost your limbs or something.
But at the same time, doesn't that help you kind of divorce that loyalty a little bit?
Yes, 100%.
You know, if they like kept you on and you were like the last to get furloughed, wouldn't that make it a little bit harder to, you know, kind of break up with that, or see the divide? Because you're like, well, they tried and they did this, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, nope, first to go. Oh, and, you know, maybe we'll bring you back, maybe we won't. You're like, oh, wait, I just busted my ass 60 hours a week for you, and you were like so quick to be like, oh, sorry about you.
Yeah, I've never had a company be like, and you're welcome to find other employment. I've never had a business owner say that to me. Yeah, just the way that they handled it was a bit bizarre, but yeah. So that's that. I mean, it's kind of a closed chapter in a weird time, but in a way it was very fun and exciting and happy, lots of happiness. I would say way more happiness than sadness and stress and overwhelming sense of gratitude. I felt grateful a lot. I would catch myself just being like, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, and a lot, and I still am. So whereas like before I just felt so bogged down with life, I wasn't throwing out gratitude at all. It wasn't something I even thought about, to be honest. I felt like, why me, you know? So just trying to have a little bit more gratitude in life towards everything, and you know, give God some praise and make sure that I continue to just trust and chill and not stress and not worry. And those burdens just become way too powerful thoughts, and they can just sink me super quickly. And I used to be like that more when I was younger. And I just, like, as I've gotten older, just more
thankful,
trustful of the plan, and thankful and grateful, and just completely willing to just like sit back and let the ride happen. Whereas like I swear, once I had kids, like once I had Merrick, my whole worrisome, anxious, is that gonna break? Oh my God, is he okay? Oh my God, like that has just gotten really bad. And it's ever since I had kids. Before, I didn't feel like I ever was that bad. Like every now and then I would have kind of like angst. Holy shit. Like the first 4 weeks that I was furloughed, I had so much angst built up inside of me that it was like manifesting in like a way that felt like heartburn or something. It was just like my heart was on fire. And I have had a lot of chest pain and like weird symptoms, you know? So I was like, fuck, am I having a heart attack here?
Stress definitely manifests itself in physiological responses. So that's why, you know, people who are constantly stressed are overweight and have terrible health problems. And the number one way to get better is to stop whatever it is that's causing that stress.
Yeah. But I mean, that surely happened. I mean, it took me about 4 weeks. And then once those 4 weeks were over, I would say like the first half of the 8 weeks were stressful. And then the latter part, it was just game on.
Yeah.
Fuck the stress. Work hard. Get it done. Make some money. And make moves. You know, it was all about making moves. That's my
How do you think
mantra.
How do you think the kids responded to this whole deal?
I think they're so resilient in age and also in the time of their lives right now that this to them is just like a big party. They're like, this is awesome. Mom's home every day. You know, I'll be sitting here and having a conference call and the kids are like pounding at the garage door like, mommy, you know, and I love it. I'm like, this is so funny. But yeah, I think they love it. I think Merrick said earlier, yeah, this is the best time of my life. I think we have a little recording of him. Maybe you can dub that in here and say, yeah, this is the best time of my life. But yeah, I think Remy's completely clueless. I don't think she has any clue. I think she just is like, wow, mommy's home a lot. Like, I think she thinks like that. But
yeah, I think we're very blessed to have kids at the age that we have right now.
Yeah.
You know, Merrick's school kind of makes it out to be like the biggest damn deal, which I appreciate to a certain level. But, you know, then I'm like, hey, he's in TK. Like, it's not even, he's still got to go to kindergarten.
We were laughing about it too, because it took me like,
you know, the fact that you were calling about missing a Skype meeting or, you know, a Zoom meeting, whatever. I'm like,
we just did our first our first successful Zoom meeting this week. It's been 8 weeks.
Yeah, you're like,
so yeah,
we got shit to do.
We've been pretty terrible.
Leave him alone.
We've been pretty terrible about being good school, and I have to say, like, it's not right. It's not right, and it's not fair that there's this massive expectation that parents can just pick up and start teaching their kids overnight and without any proper training or any like proper education towards that. And like, yeah, we should all help our kids with homework, but to be a full-time teacher, like, no, I didn't sign up for that shit. I like did not sign up for that shit. And I know a lot of moms are out there going, yeah, go Holly, I hear you. Because it's true. It's like, fuck, man, if I wanted to be a teacher, I would have been a damn teacher. I do not like teaching. I don't like teaching anyone anything. I like leading, but I don't like teaching. And especially kids.
I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, you always do a great job of, you know, helping Merrick out and teaching him and doing the stuff. But when you're like sitting down in front of a curriculum and you're like Common Core math, what the fuck? No, it's just put your fingers together.
For me, it's time. Like, you want me to be able to provide for my family, be a teacher to my child, be a full-time parent to my 1-year-old, be a wife to my husband, be a daughter to my mom. You know what I mean? I was like, I have 20 jobs at the end of the day, like where I could just go to work and have one job. Here, I have a lot of different jobs, and making sure Merrick's getting on his Skype at the right time, because my mom just basically throws her arms up and is like, I don't know how to do it. And so I'm responsible for it, you know, and I'm the one getting the messages from the teacher that we're not on. And so, yeah, that part's been pretty highly.
They do a hell of a job of like guilt tripping the shit out of you.
Yeah, that part's been pretty stressful. Making sure that they're well-rounded and that they're playing with kids, even though they can't play with kids. And like, how are you doing that? And yeah, I mean, integrating this craziness into my work schedule has been really hard. So the best way I've found to do that is to just jam from like 6 to noon. And then after noon, I still work, but it's on demand. So like, it'll be like, oh, I just got an email and I'll run back here. Where from 6 to noon, I'm hustling. I'm calling, I'm emailing, I'm working out bids, I'm working out quotes. I'm on my phone and I'm on my computer. But after noon, I try to be able to just kind of disconnect and just have, if, like I said, if I get an email or if I get an emergency need, I come back and I will handle it. But you have to have an off switch when you work from home. You have to, because what happens is you could just, I've done that before. I've sat out here and I was in the house that day because it was raining, but I sat inside until like 7 p.m. And then we ate dinner and I got jumped back on from 7 to 11, you know? So it was like, I literally worked from like 6 in the morning until 11 p.m.
But you were doing that at your business too, because you were answering emails and all that stuff. So
I was,
at least you're home.
Yeah.
At least
I can eat dinner with you guys.
The stress seems to have been a healthier form of stress.
Yeah.
If that makes any
totally.
sense,
I mean, the stress has evaporated in the sense that I'm like, oh, I have to get this $20 million program off the ground or else it's all my fault and I'll lose my job. And like, you always kind of have to go back to like, what's the reason? What's your cause? What's your why? And my why was always, I can't lose my job. And my why drove my obsessive behavior of like making sure I finished every little thing on my task list for the day, even if that meant I have to stay there till 10. Excuse me. So just knowing, like I said, like there has to be an off switch. And just knowing that off switch, knowing what's your personal off switch, what is going to make you trigger you to be done and focus on reality and focus on what really matters. And, you know, seeing small things and not.
I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got when I was just kind of moving into a junior leadership position, and I was doing the same thing of, okay, it's 6 o'clock. Let me pump out a few more emails and do this. And
like always try to prove yourself almost.
Yeah. One of the more senior guys came over to me. He's like, look, man, the Navy's going to be just fine without you.
Yeah.
Like, definitely work hard. Work your ass off. Do good work. All of that. But don't burn yourself into the ground for this entity that truly doesn't give a shit. Because if you continue to do that, you're setting a pattern. You're always going to do that. And you're always going to work till 7, 8 o'clock at night, 12, 13-hour days. And you're not, like, the Navy's not going to give you that back. Whatever company you work for, unless it's your own company, is not going to give that back to you in the form of gratitude or loyalty or whatever. When layoffs come, you're still going to get laid off.
Yeah.
There
is no loyalty anymore. So you learn that quickly, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
But
again, it's that fine line between, it's not saying don't work hard, don't do any, like, it's 100%. Not saying that, right? Like,
it's saying balance.
Fulfill your duties.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And balance.
But when 5:30 hits, or that, roundabout time when you've completed what you've completed for the day, go home.
Yep.
And then be home.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is like, I would come home, but I wasn't home.
Yeah.
And I would wake up, but I wasn't home. and I would go to bed and I wasn't home. Like it just was, I was always just like renting space in my mind. You know, it wasn't, I didn't own it. I didn't own my own mind. And not taking my mind back and owning it. Like this is my mind. No one can own this space today. This space is Holly space with Merrick, or Holly space with Remy, or Holly space with Dawn. And having those like really intentional moments has been life-changing. And you know, I hope I don't lose that again. I'm afraid that I'm a habitual person and I will fall back into that habit of becoming obsessed.
Well, what's the secret word you want me to be like?
Marshmallow.
Marshmallow. Why are you saying marshmallow?
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. You're like, I'll smack you with a marshmallow.
Anyways, I think it's a good time to end it.
But yeah. It was a good conversation. I miss you. I miss having these conversations with you. And yeah, hopefully we'll be more regular about it.
I think we can.
All right. I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.